Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun and exciting video for you guys today because we're taking a look at Star Fox EX. And even though this updated over a year ago, when I talked about Star Fox, Miyu, and Faye, basically everyone said two things. They had never heard of Star Fox CD before, and they had never heard of Star Fox EX before. That absolutely blew my mind because even though Star Fox CD is still in active development, Star Fox EX is basically 100% buttoned up, but we'll be getting a fundamentally new update soon from Kandowantu, the developer. That is because limited run games and their Super FX3 chip code is going to be available to the public to play around with, and Kandowantu is going to be upgrading this thing to a Super FX3 setup, and that is absolutely spectacular. But let's get out of the way first what Star Fox EX truly is. It is basically a brand new Star Fox game with brand new maps, a storyline, absolutely from start to finish, in my opinion, ever so slightly better than the original Star Fox in only its sense of humor and presentation. And I will say Kandowantu has been 100% on fire lately, bringing in a bunch of different ROM hacks utilizing the limited run game's Rumble support code for Super Nintendo. If you weren't aware, they created an entirely new controller and code set that works on the new release of Doom for Super Nintendo, where you can actually have Rumble support on controllers on Super Nintendo and even Mr. FPGA. And outside of that, honestly, Star Fox EX just 10 out of 10 fun. If you have the right flash cartridge like the SD to SNES Pro, you can actually overclock the CPU speed and the Super FX speed, getting you actually a game that will run even faster than stock hardware. Of course, you can do that in emulation FPGA as well, but it is a really fun feature and is definitely going to be even more useful, I'm sure, when the Super FX3 version of Star Fox EX comes out. But this game is absolutely stunning, and when I talked about it maybe a year and a half ago, it could have also been in 2024, I didn't actually check. I said if you haven't played this game before, you're 100% missing out, and the only reason I'm making this is because 1, it's getting updated soon, and 2, I was really surprised that you guys just hadn't seen this before. But the reality is retro gaming is absolutely making a comeback right now. Everything retro is on fire in a new golden age, and there's so much to play basically every single week. And think about how I feel having to make the videos for them. It always keeps me busy, that I can't absolutely understand in some ways how you would miss something like this. But I am here to tell you, you know about Star Fox EX now if you're watching this video, and you absolutely have to play it after you finish up here in sometime in the next week or two. And the number one thing about Star Fox EX I absolutely love, all of the background layers brand new, all of the storyline new. It basically just creates an entirely new Star Fox game that didn't come out back in the day. Think about how when Nintendo released Star Fox 2 on the Super Nintendo Mini, that was basically a brand new game that never actually saw retail release. Kandowantu Star Fox EX is exactly the same concept, except even more impressive because of course it uses the learnings of Super Nintendo development over decades that basically didn't exist when Star Fox 2 was still in development. Because sure, that game technically released quote-unquote recently, but it was still code from the legacy era of when Super Nintendo was still on store shelves. And there is just absolutely so much more you can do with Super Nintendo hardware these days. When it actually goes to a Super FX3 chip setup, it's going to be able to do even more. And I don't want to spoil a lot of the storyline behind Star Fox EX, but it's absolutely hilarious, tongue-in-cheek, and will surprise you at every single turn. And I will say the graphics here, the colorways, and everything else Kandowantu did, 10 out of 10, stunning, charming, and fun in every way possible. So if you do want to play this one, I'm definitely going to have a lot more video after the soundtrack sample, but in the description below you can find the patch set. There's patches for every single region and different revision of the game, because Star Fox actually got 3 different revisions, at least in North America, and you can go through and even apply optional patches on top of that, kind of articulating your Star Fox experience you want to have. And until one day when there is a Star Fox recomp or Star Fox PC port as far as the Super Nintendo version is concerned, because don't forget we have both a recomp and a PC port for Star Fox 64. This is absolutely, in my opinion, the best way to play a game that never truly existed. Let's go into the first of 2 soundtrack samples because again, the music in this absolutely stunning, as is everything else. But come back after the break, I'm going to show you more of the game, more of its fun features, and more of the absolutely wild, over-the-top stuff that Kandowantu put into Star Fox EX. But enjoy, because like I said, this music is just straight up 10 out of 10, and I'll be right back. This is absolutely straight up awesome because there is new music in this game, and just so you know, there's 17 brand new levels in Star Fox EX, and even though this really hasn't fundamentally updated for a while, it did actually get a small update in April 12, 2026 just to fix a freezing issue, so technically this is a quote-unquote new development as well. But if you ever want to just basically fly around the world of Star Fox as a gigantic space whale, that is something you can do here, and there is basically like a 3-page setup menu, not to get the game running, but to change every single option you want in the game. You can have CPU controlled helpers, you can basically do whatever the hell you want in this thing, and it just basically from start to finish feels like such a special experience. And I love that developers are out there making these new things, and that's why when so many people said they hadn't heard of Star Fox EX, I knew I absolutely had to do a follow-up on this game, because if you missed out on it and you love Star Fox until Nintendo releases the new Star Fox Remake, this absolutely should be the game to tide you over. These are just the things I love about retro gaming developments. Fans out there, fan developers, just decide for themselves, I want more of something I love, and I think a lot of other people are going to want the exact same thing. So they go out with an idea and they end up making something like Star Fox EX, which is a brand new game in the Star Fox universe, and I do think it's every bit as good as Nintendo and Argonaut Software ever did. Sometimes people get upset when I said it's as good, if not even slightly better, than what the developers did back in the day. That isn't a knock on the original game, it's just a statement that we had decades of learned and shared knowledge on how to develop Super Nintendo games, and games in general, sometimes new games, can actually outseed their source material. And that's one of those things, it's not a negative, it is a positive for everyone. Because don't get me wrong, the original Star Fox is still incredible, and it's not like it stops being fun because I think Star Fox EX is slightly better. It just means you have two incredible options when it comes to playing around with stuff here. And that in and of itself is a win, and when the Super FX 3 code is available, it's just going to get better. And think about how many other incredible Super Nintendo experiences we'll be able to have in the future. Because there's new dev tools, there's new rumble support in controllers, there's the FX3 chip that really is going to lead into a point in time where you can basically do things that were never possible before. And if you're wondering, yes, this is a link from The Legend of Zelda, very popular topic with the Twilight Princess Dust PC port coming out recently, and this is what I mean when I say this game has an absolutely epic sense of humor and so many fun storylines, and I'm basically keeping almost all of those from you because I really want you to experience them for the first time yourself and understand just how wild Kandowantu has gone with this. I want to call it a ROM hack, but honestly, entirely new game in the Star Fox universe for Super Nintendo. Because that's the thing, we always use the word ROM hack kind of as the correct nomenclature to describe what these things are, but in this instance I feel like ROM hack doesn't really do the game justice as to just how much new there truly is. It's basically an entirely new experience that just happens to be built upon the foundation of Star Fox. Let's do one more soundtrack sample because again, some of the music in the game absolutely new and original and stuff that you wouldn't hear in the original game. So go ahead and listen, I'll come back, tell you a little bit more about it, and try to convince you one more time that you need to play Star Fox EX today. But enjoy. So yeah, let's go down the checklist of things that are new, different, or otherwise unique about Star Fox EX. You have 17 completely new levels, you have a completely new storyline and music, you can go ahead and just swim around as a whale, you have new background images, and basically a brand new Star Fox game, even if this has been out for a while. This is absolutely a must-play. You do not want to miss it unless you absolutely hate the original Star Fox. Because if you don't love Star Fox on Super Nintendo, there's nothing here that's going to convince you to love it. But if you did enjoy that game and you didn't know Star Fox EX existed, trust me, you're in for an absolute treat. And I love this camera angle here as the basically whale does a barrel roll into the interior of a mountainside. It is straight up hilarious, fun, and charming in all of the best ways possible. And what I knew you guys didn't know about this one, I knew I had to revisit the channel because when I talked about this, definitely had a much smaller viewer base than I do now, and this is one that you absolutely cannot miss. So until Nintendo releases the Star Fox Remake, go ahead and jump into Star Fox EX, select a whale, and have a whale of a good time. The most dad joke I'm probably going to make on the channel this month. Short of that, we're done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.